Okay, so Ben Johnson, you've looked into him a lot because you found QAnon stuff and a bunch of other things. So tell me what you know about Ben Johnson, and now as the chair elected by the board, what kind of, like, the things that would be tied to that, like the beliefs of QAnon election fraud, and even the trial he brought up, even though the trial is bullshit.
Yeah. So I mean, first off, like the QAnon stuff is weird and unsettling and disturbing because it is just a completely unhinged conspiracy theory that has a lot of sort of anti-Semitic vibes to it, and it's just I don't know. It's anybody who doesn't know about it, just go to Wikipedia and read about it. It is disturbing stuff. It is it's one of these things that you hear all kinds of stories. People have lost loved ones to it and family members who cut themselves off. I mean, it is cult like, if not a full
Mhm.
out cult. So
I would say it's a cult.
yeah. So that's one thing to take into account. Now, the other thing is that is I think is more to the point for people in Spalding County to know and to possibly be concerned about is not that Ben Johnson thinks there is a global secret cabal of liberals and Democrats who worship Satan and eat babies, as disturbing as that is, but that he fervently believes that there was widespread voter fraud in the 2020 elections and that something has to be done about it. Now he is in a position of power to do something about it. And so, what does that look like? Well, for one, for right now, what that looks like is Ben Johnson going after Dominion voting systems and possibly finding a way for Spalding County to have some other provider of voting software for them to operate with, because Ben Johnson doesn't believe that Dominion voting system software is safe. And he may further believe that so one of the things that he did tweet about regarding Dominion was he tweeted about this thing called Italy Gate, um, which is like the level of online rabbit holes you have to go down to understand some of what this dude is talking about are really quite something. So Italy Gate is a debunked conspiracy theory that security officials in Italy, physically in Italy during the 2020 election, were somehow able to change or alter actual votes themselves through Dominion software. So Ben Johnson tweets, "Election fraud is not a myth. Hashtag Italygate." So this is just one of the elements of conspiracy theories involving Dominion that he believes in.
And to be clear, they change votes like just for the president, or how does that work? Like, because people elected Republicans at lower levels.
Here's the thing: is that it's never really laid out. A lot of this is just kind of like fever dream type stuff. But no, I mean, you make a good point, which is that this is something that none of these conspiracy theorists have ever been able to they've never been able to around this corner here, which is that, well, if there was all of this stuff going on to make sure that Donald Trump became president, does that mean that all the Republicans who won office also, though, that also didn't count, or there was fraud involved with that, or was it just a campaign to make sure that Donald Trump got elected? And you know what? If it was just Donald Trump, then let's talk about here in Georgia. Like, if all these various secret, nefarious actors around the globe got together and hacked Dominion or put in Chinese ballots or whatever it was that they did to elect Joe Biden, that these people think they did to elect Joe Biden, then why wouldn't they have done that for every Democrat running across the country? And did they do that for John Ossoff, who had a stunning upset victory? Did they do that for Raphael Warnock, the first black person to be a senator in Georgia ever?
Right.
Because you don't see those allegations being levied. It's all about Trump. So,
well, actually, the allegations are there. In the November election board meeting of 2021, Ben Johnson makes a claim about the voting machine. So one of the voting machines in the 2021 election for Spalding County was loaded with the special election from February and with the runoff election in January. And that was just a mistake from their staff. But Ben Johnson, and I know that because I confirmed it with Kim Slaughter in a meeting I had privately. It was just a mistake by the Spalding County Election Board. But in the public meeting, Ben Johnson claims that it was the Dominion voting machines, and this is on record. He's trying to make it seem like the runoff elections were bullshit. But that goes back to what I was saying about the Republicans winning. Is in that election, there were 3 people on the ballot, right? John Ossoff, Raphael Warnock, and not agricultural, I forgot what seat it is. I can't remember what it is. One of the statewide commissioners. And the incumbent's called Bubba, I forgot his last name, and Daniel Blackman was running against him. Daniel Blackman's a Democrat, Bubba's a Republican.
Yeah.
And Bubba won on the same ballots that John and Raphael won. So, like, is that invalid? Why would a Republican win if it was rigged for the Democrats?
Because here's the thing about people like Ben Johnson is that it's not logical. It's not factual. It's point out the things that you think point to your argument that there's widespread voter fraud and ignore everything else that doesn't conveniently fit into that box. Okay? And the reason that they do this is and this is why I think you're right to call a lot of this behavior cultish, because they only do it when they're told by Big Daddy Donald Trump to do it. You know, this is all about a white backlash to Donald Trump losing, which, by the way, just in terms of like if you were a betting person, you would not have bet against Donald Trump because he's an incumbent president. Incumbent presidents hardly ever lose re-election attempts. So as shocking as Donald Trump's victory was in 2016, you could make the argument that for a lot of Republicans, his loss was just as shocking. And you'll see them post things like, how can he lose when all these people go to his rallies and nobody shows up at Biden's rallies? Well, a lot of people went to Trump's rallies because they didn't think COVID was real. And a lot of people didn't go to Biden rallies because they did believe that, like, it was a dangerous virus and they didn't want to catch it and die on a ventilator, right? But regardless of any of that, I'm glad that you brought up the meeting thing, because in December, Ben Johnson again brings up Dominion voting systems. And because basically what's happening here is that the county, Dominion does not have contracts with individual counties to run voting systems and machines and software. Dominion has a contract with Georgia's Secretary of State's office, which they won in 2020, I think in 2019, whatever, like right before the 2020 election, through what is called a competitive bid process, where they and many other vendors who do this type of work would have had to submit detailed responses to requests for proposal on how they would run voting machines systems, all kinds of, this is like a complex thing here. This is not, we're talking about millions and millions of voters, 159 individual counties, and the Secretary of State, by the way, is a Republican. So let's keep that in mind as we talk about what Ben Johnson says in regards to Dominion voting now. So so there's no contract with the county, but the county is on the hook to pay for certain things that Dominion does through their however much money the Board of Elections is appropriated for by the County Board of Commissioners, right? So in December, there's a meeting at the election board that for personal and private reasons, neither Democrat member could attend. So it's just the 3 Republicans and Kim Slaughter and, the secretary taking notes. And Ben Johnson starts talking about the money that Dominion has to pay, or I'm sorry, that they have to pay to Dominion to do like troubleshooting or software updates or whatever. Like it's in the tens of thousands of dollars. And he's complaining about this because he's saying, well, we don't actually have a contract with the county. And, he says, I can't get certain answers out of Dominion about what happens if something goes wrong and who my contact is there, which, is a valid concern. But he's very against having Dominion at all. Anyway, in that December meeting, he says, and then he describes this incredible discovery that he makes, right? He finds this court case, this lawsuit that's happening in Georgia State Court. And it's brought by a Republican representative, I don't know what area from, named Philip Singleton. And he's suing the Secretary of State Raffensperger regarding Dominion voting machines. And it's very complicated, very technical, but it has something to do with the type of software that is used, I think, in reading QR codes, maybe, or something like that. But basically, so Ben describes this incredible discovery that he's made, that a judge in that case has said, actually, the software that Dominion is using is against Georgia rules and laws about software that can be used for voting systems. The software that Dominion is using, Johnson cites this judge as saying, is, quote, illegal, right? He says, to sum this up for his fellow Republican colleagues on the election board, he says, so basically the software that we're using for voting in Spalding County, a judge has called illegal, which blows my mind. And I'm like, wow, yeah, that is crazy. I should probably look that up. And so I find the court case and I find the docket, and I'm not able to really find, it's not a great online system in Fulton County where the court case is happening. I'm not able to find any real documents about any judge's comments about the case, but what I do find is that the case is scheduled to go to trial in December of 2022. Now, it strikes me as a little bit implausible that a judge overseeing a case that is scheduled to go to trial later this year would make a judgment as vociferous as this software is illegal ahead of the trial.
Mm-hmm. That would be a violation of ethics, which could get them unbarred.
And also, if the judge thinks it's illegal, what's the point of going to trial? So I don't know where Ben Johnson got that from, but all I know is that, he says stuff like this at a public board meeting, and there's a he has a very, like, put together demeanor. So saying that at a board meeting without the context behind it and then without the fact checking, it gives it this air of credulity that it should not have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And considering what we know about Ben's online reading habits, which apparently involve insane far-right conspiracy sources, who knows where he got that information,
mm-hmm. He's using his position to indoctrinate regular people into the QAnon beliefs.
Right. And he's also using his position to, like I said, give an air of, he's a public official at a public board meeting.
He's the chair. And so when he says something, if you didn't know any better and you were just a member of the public, that carries a lot of weight with it. Yes. And the thing about Dominion is, I'm sure you're aware, there's been plenty of court cases against them, and they were all lost, to the point that on public news, they can't say that Dominion was involved in election fraud because that would be defamation, because Dominion won lawsuits that claimed election fraud. And so specifically, judges have already ruled that that Dominion did not do anything wrong in the 2020 election.
Right.